A little earlier, I spoke to Labour's shadow Chancellor Ed Balls. I put it to him that Britain has no influence over the eurozone crisis and consequently little influence over the economic consequences for this country.
4 years ago, in the heat of the global financial crisis, British prime ministers and chancellors had big influence in Europe, even though we weren't in the eurozone. You're right to say, in or out, this affects us hugely. I have to say, if we'd been in the euro, things would have been much, much worse for Britain. I've no doubt about that. But we should be influential in these debates. And I'm afraid that the prime minister walking away in December from discussions about economic reform in the euro have meant our voice is, you're right, more discounted than it should be.
Well, discounted it may be, but what would you advise the British government now? Let's forget the ingredients that have brought us to this point, but what advice do you have now for facing up to this problem?
Well, in my view, the British Prime Minister and potentially the Chancellor should be travelling to Berlin to urge the German government to change course, and they should be joining forces with France and Italy and the European Commission to say we've got to act, we've got to change course. There's no point trying to fight battles of 10 years ago or anticipate battles 10 years ahead about who's being responsible or who's doing the right things. Here and now, there is an immediate dangerous crisis, and the lack of leadership, people sitting on their hands, the central bank inactive while this crisis builds, with, to be honest, there being no proper protections to stop catastrophe in Spain and Italy if Greece goes. This is incredibly dangerous.
But it isn't just David Cameron that's left us without influence. It's successive British governments that's left us without influence. As I say, the pound is strengthening. What do you want us to do? Devalue? What is Britain's role, given that we can't influence the eurozone?
Well, we are weaker at the moment economically because the government made the wrong domestic choices 2 years ago.
But what is the right choice now?
Well, the right choice now for Britain is to urge for our country and the eurozone a change of course to a more balanced plan on deficit reduction, a jobs and growth plan, as many people are now calling for.
But that's whistling in the wind, and you know it. We have no influence in this matter.
Well, look, part of the reason we have no influence is because our government in the last year has blamed the eurozone rather than tried to build alliances for solutions. Go back 3 years ago, in those big summits then, we were in the Eurogroup meetings, part of the discussions, rather than carping from the sidelines.
But given that we have no influence, given the pound is strengthening, given that it threatens British jobs, what does Britain do? Does it contemplate devaluation?
Well, look, we are not in the euro.
Do we contemplate devaluation?
Well, we don't have a fixed exchange rate link with the eurozone or with or with any country.
Well, what do we do? I mean, the pound is going through the roof.
Well, at the moment, what we need is a plan for jobs and growth here in Britain. But I don't think, to be honest, devaluing or not devaluing the pound makes any sense as a strategy.
No, I'm trying really using the pound. I'm trying to browbeat you into giving us a solution that Britain can travel without influence in the eurozone.
Well, to be honest, John, unless we do influence the eurozone, then there's nothing we can do which stops us being very, very badly affected by what looks potentially to be a catastrophic eurozone crisis. And therefore, the reason why I'm not really answering your questions in the way you want is because I think this is a council of despair. The British government must be, as a member of the European Union, urging Germany and France and the central bank to get their act together.
We naturally invited a Treasury Minister to join us, but none was available. We'll have more analysis on all this later in the programme.